Good morning, everyone, and happy Monday. And for those of you who watched the England game either last night or early this morning, hope everyone's feeling happy about that, as long as you've been supporting England as you're watching it. One of my friends, they're a Mexican-English couple, so it's either a win-win or a lose-lose, depending how you look at it. So, quick question for our viewers. How many of you actually genuinely enjoy opening emails from a company unless they're giving you a big discount for your birthday or similar? Well, I'm really excited today because Genevieve sends emails every week and I actually love reading them. And I've had so many conversations with founders and leaders in travel who find the thought of being visible, and that could be posting on LinkedIn, writing articles, appearing on video, they find it absolutely terrifying, but they don't say the word terrifying. They tend to procrastinate, just put it off for another day, keep very busy tinkering with their products, and then they wonder why it's so hard to sell when the time comes. So I'm really pleased to have Genevieve White joining me today to share the missing ingredient in your content strategy that's right under your nose. Genevieve supports travel companies with copy, content, and storytelling so they attract their ideal travelers. So good morning, Jen.
Good morning, Emily. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Thanks for coming. So, Jen, what is it that makes us feel so nervous about being visible?
I think there's a few different things at play, Emily. I think first of all, there's maybe the fear of judgment. It's a very personal thing. You know, your business is maybe if you're looking at that as a separate entity from yourself and writing about it in a very corporate way, then that's one thing. But actually sharing yourself, your personality, things from your life, that's really scary. And you might be very worried about being judged, being seen to be unprofessional. That's something that my clients often say, oh, but if I write about myself, isn't that a little bit unprofessional? So these fears are definitely there. But I think it is that how do you want to buy something from a very corporate sounding voice that it's very difficult to build that sense of connection, that sense of trust, to have that personality? Because as we've all heard, it's a bit of a marketing mantra. People buy from people. So if you are hiding behind this corporate facade and sounding very corporate in the way you speak, it's just not going to have the same trust building effect, really.
Yeah, definitely. And often when we make those buying decisions, it's not really that rational. It's quite emotional. So we might add some logic on top of it when we, convince ourselves it's the right thing to spend money on. But actually, it's like almost a gut decision or a emotional decision that we make when we spend money on something. So completely get why not sounding too corporate is probably a good thing. But how do we do that? Especially for people like me who are corporate escapees who spent, 15 years in corporate, and then you're like, how do I post on LinkedIn as myself or as a founder of a company?
Well, I think the natural gift that we all have, and it's a gift that never stops giving, is stories. And storytelling. Now, storytelling has, I think, become one of these marketing buzzwords that we're all a bit like, I don't know, but maybe a bit fed up of hearing, and maybe it's also ceased to have any meaning, or people aren't really very clear about what it means anymore. So when I say storytelling, I'm not necessarily talking about like sharing an epic saga or a story that even has to begin with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's sharing glimpses of you and your life, you and your values, you and why you do what you do, in a way that's, I guess, is relevant. I mean, always with all of this, there's this huge caveat: is as well as sharing yourself, you always have to think about your reader, and you always have to put your reader first. So it's not just, writing an email or writing a social post that's just about me. It's about thinking about how you can relate the stuff that you are saying with what your readers want to hear about. It's about finding that commonality. Just like if you're talking with a friend in real life, you'll not, well, hopefully you will be thinking about what they're interested in and what they'd like to talk
Yeah.
about. And it's very much the same with writing and with telling stories. So a story, in terms of copywriting, in terms of an email or a written post, a story can just be as simple as just giving a little bit of context. It could be as simple as saying something like, "Oh, I've had a dreadful cold this week." And work's been getting on top of me, or something like that. It's not a story that it has a beginning, middle, and an end. It's just sharing something human, that make people think, oh yeah, there's a person behind there, and that really does matter, and it helps to grow that connection. Another thing I think that people often do, and this is really comes down to the whole personality thing, and it's so important, is being aware of voice. And something that I often find founders making when they're starting is it's like hiding behind this very corporate voice. So I was working with a client a couple of years ago, and I noticed that although he was just had a very small business, he was actually the only person in the business. His website was hiding behind this wall of we.
Yeah.
And I was really confused, and I was like, oh, why? I thought you were the only person. Like, I thought, you were the sole founder of the business. And he was like, well, yeah, I am. But I said, why is there all this wee-weeing all over the place? And he said, well, because I thought it would look more professional. I wanted to, so he wanted to look like a bigger business. And I think although I can understand why people might do this, I think it's creating this kind of unnecessary barrier almost, because your smallness as a small business, the fact that you are you and you it's a gift, really. It's a gift. And if you are almost trying to make yourself look bigger than you are, I think that's it's just not really going to serve you very well. And the other thing is as well with this corporate kind of writing is people start to use very kind of corporate sounding language. Lots of kind of passive voice constructions, the kind of things. I think people look around and they think, well, that's what a business should sound like. So they start to use that kind of language. And it's just not the language that we use in real life. So I think when it comes to showing your personality, a really important thing to remember is that good copy it sounds like spoken words. It sounds like spoken language. It's conversational. So a good way to think about it is it should sound like you're having a conversation with your ideal traveler. That you're sitting down over a cup of coffee and you are chatting with them. So you are describing, like say you're describing your experience. Use the words that you would actually use. If you can go to a page in your website and read it out and think, oh, I'd never actually say that. Then you need to go back and you need to have a look at it. Even like, this might sound really weird, but even record yourself just chatting naturally or chatting with like a friend and about your experience, about what you offer, and then listen back and look at the kind of language you've used. Look at the words you've used as well, because that's something else that's really important. We all use a very different kind of language when we're talking. We all have our pet words, our favorite kind of expressions. We may have regional variations in your language. Like, for example, I'm Scottish, so I'll use some Scottish words when I'm speaking. You don't want to, of course, go so heavy on this that nobody can understand what you're saying. But I think to actually just add a little flavor, if that is words you genuinely use in real life, can be a really good thing. And it just, again, it gets that sense of it's what makes you different. And that's important as well, right? Because when it comes to showing your personality, we go online nowadays, and probably a big part because of AI, there's a lot of sameness out there. There's a lot of the same words being used, the same phrases being used, the same kind of sentence structure and patterns, even the layouts of posts. It's all like the bullet points and the little short, snappy sentences. And it's just very, very samey. So if you can really lean into who you are, how you speak, how you think, what is happening in your life, the real relatable things that your readers will be able to relate to, then I think you're on a winner.
Nice. Part of my coaching training, and I've also seen it in sales training, is about using your client's own words. So yeah, don't try and sell something to someone that's in corporate jargon when they say the words, oh, this problem is really keeping me up at night. And it's interesting that it's about their own words, but also your own words. And then I guess you have a more genuine connection.
Exactly.
I love the tip about recording yourself and listening back, because it probably sounds totally different from the corporatified jargony stuff. Do you have any other like practical tips for someone to get started who's feeling like a bit nervous or a bit like it might be a bit too hard to change things, or maybe they've been using Claude or similar for their content, how they can step away and like kind of practical first step or two?
Yeah, so I think maybe one of the things that people feel really overwhelmed by is this whole like time. Oh, this is going to take me too much time to do this. And I think there are definitely a few things that you can do to help you with that. So first of all, I mean, one of the big things is ideas, right? Because people are like, oh, how am I going to think of all these ideas? But the thing is that working in travel, you're surrounded by inspiration. And it is just getting into a habit of noting things down, like have a spreadsheet or something, conversations with guests, as you just said, Emily, things in your guests and your travelers' own words. That's amazing. So, if you've had a conversation with a guest, if they've messaged you with some feedback, screenshot it and add it to your bank. Start to very intentionally build up a content bank, because that is, you're drowning in content. You just don't even realize it. And you're drowning in really unique content that is not going to be like anybody else's. So start to really, really document it. So yeah, having the ideas is really important, and then start to group the ideas. So you'll have, hopefully, like with your business, you'll have like maybe 3 kind of sometimes they're called content pillars. I like to call them golden threads, but 3 main themes that you want to communicate to your ideal travelers. Start to have like some sort of system in the spreadsheet where you're kind of like, okay, so this guest has said this thing about the experience that goes really well with this kind of golden thread that I want to convey. So you're kind of like categorizing stuff. Now, this doesn't actually need to take long. It's just a simple case. If you build a spreadsheet, it's more like a habit, right? Yep. Then I think the other thing is just get really time yourself when you are writing. I know that you're going to think, oh, you can get something out of Claude or ChatGPT in seconds. It's not good stuff. So you might think you're saving yourself time, but you are, in the end, if it's not actually like speaking to the people you want to speak to, it's not really saved you anything. It's costing you, actually. So get into the habit of just like, the more you do this. Writing is a muscle. The more you exercise it, the easier it gets. But don't perfectionism, right, is a curse. And if you get really perfectionist about your writing, you're going to spend like a whole day on something, and that's completely unsustainable. The thing about, actually, this is a great thing that's come out of this whole AI thing, is that people hate perfect stuff now. They're like, it's like, must have been AI. If you can write something that's a little bit raw, and if it will be a little bit raw if you've just written it yourself in half an hour, you're winning, because immediately it's like, oh, thank God, it's human.
Or engagement
is. Yeah, exactly. Such a breath of fresh air. So don't be like, oh, it's got to be perfect. Got to spend an hour on it. Just set a timer, half an hour. You can even get down to 20 minutes once you've been doing it for a while. Half an hour. I'm going to write something and I'm going to press send at the end of this. It doesn't need to be long. So you're not aiming for like a big, long, perfect essay. Just like a thought, an idea, a conversation you've had with a guest, write it down in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And send it. And it's honestly, it doesn't need to be a big time consuming thing. It's about getting into good habits. It's about recording ideas as they come to you. And then it's about not stressing about perfection.
Love that. Awesome. Thanks so much, Jen. I'm feeling inspired for my own marketing as well. If anyone would like to join Jen's email list, and as I said at the beginning, I actually genuinely enjoy getting your emails, because like you said, I get a little peep into your life. I feel like I know you. And then you're very good at not doing the whiplash thing of like, I got married last week, and here's 10 things I learned about B2B sales. You're very good at actually drawing out the human thread of it and then connecting human to human within it. So if anyone would like to join Jen's email list, you can click the QR code or follow her on LinkedIn, and then you'll get her newsletter as well. Thanks so much for joining. Really appreciated it. Any final thoughts?
Gosh, final thoughts.
You don't have
I said it all, but yeah, just do. Yeah, I think thank you, Emily, for the kind words about my emails. And I think, yeah, if you want to see kind of storytelling in how it works in practice, yeah, come along. It'd be lovely to have you.
Nice. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thanks, Emily. Bye-bye.